You were going to die young because you smoked 30 cigarettes a day since you were 15, and you're going to hell because of the life you took. You're fucked. I'm Liam, he's Rob, and welcome to the Hey Guys podcast and the first week in our series of October Halloween themed specials. With talk of a potential sequel finally getting made and, well, the movie being included on Amazon Prime for 5 more days, it seemed as good a time as any to revisit the initially underrated but increasingly appreciated 2005 horror-inspired comic book adaptation of Constantine. Sure, Keanu isn't blonde. He definitely isn't Scouse. Hell might look a bit too much like an Xbox 360 game, but thanks to its great cast, solid direction, and fantastic location work, in LA that is, not Hell of course, 2005's Constantine proves a supremely enjoyable pre-MCU comic book movie. Now, Rob, going into this, I was very concerned that despite having fond memories of this film, that it would have aged horribly. Beyond the aforementioned 360-esque Hell sequences, I was like, this film still looks great and is like loads of fun.
So I'm glad you said that, first of all, right? I wrote it down as well. Not so much 360. It reminded me of the weird hellscape in that old Bruce Willis Armageddon game from 1999.
Oh, so you're going PS1?
I'm going PS1. Yeah, for some reason it just felt like that.
Well, no, because it probably had more of a reference because this was actually released, like the 360 didn't come out until 2007, I want to say.
Yeah.
Or was it 2005? No, oh shit, it was 2005. So it was around the same time, but it seemed every video game, and it wasn't just video games, it kind of seeped into movies as well. Everything was kind of red and brown, like that kind of muddy look. And this very much has that vibe.
It does look good. Aside from that, as you said, the film does look good. It looks good on the Amazon Prime. I will correct you. You said 5 days. As of me watching it today, as we're recording, there's only 38 hours left to watch Prime.
So hopefully you already saw the post then online.
Yeah. But in regards to anything, it's really because I was a bit afraid going back to this. I haven't seen it for a while, and I mean, spoiler alert for my review at the end, but it's not good and it's not bad. It's just meh. It's just so middle of the road. It's ridiculous. It doesn't stray either way. They haven't taken a lot of chances with the story or with the characters or anything. But on the other hand, as well, it's just like they've done quite well with the characters to not make it seem shocking. I mean, I want to say video game, comic book adaptations back then, 2005. I mean, you had Spider-Man in 2002, so that was, 3 years after. But before that, they weren't the best. The best one we've ever had was Blade as a comic book adaptation.
Well, yeah, because it's weird because I wonder how many people would have even known that this was a comic book movie because it's not like John Constantine, especially in 2005, was this known quantity by any stretch. No. And I think by recent-ish standards, the comic book movie industry was in probably as much of a nadir as it's ever been in, other than unless you want to go back to like the mid-90s and stuff. Because yes, sure, like this was released the same year as Batman Begins, and there was still the Spider-Man films. But if you look at the films that were released in and around this, we're talking Catwoman, Ang Lee's Hulk, a film which I have a soft spot for, but didn't exactly, light shit up at the box office. Daredevil, Fantastic Four, Blade Trinity, as good as Blade was, Blade Trinity came out in 2004. And in case you haven't seen it, it's complete ass. Absolutely terrible film. Killed the franchise dead. So the comic book movie genre was really struggling in a bit in 2005. And this film comes out, and I think it did well enough at the box office. And to your point, I'm not going back and suggesting this film is a masterpiece by any stretch, but I've always had a soft spot for it. And going back and rewatching it, I still feel that way now. And I think a big part of it actually, is a combination of things. I think the cast is fantastic. I think Keanu in particular is perfectly cast as Constantine. Now, I know, again, a lot of people had issue, especially at the time when it was released, that he isn't blonde, he isn't a Scouse or all that shit. But what he needs to be is, you've got a character who's a complete asshole, but you're still supposed to kind of like. And Keanu's perfect for that because he acts like a proper prick in this film. But
especially to Rachel Weisz, he's an asshole to Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, but not only do you still like him because he's Keanu Reeves, but also as the movie goes on, and I like the fact that they never kiss. But once it gets like the bath sequence when she has to go into the bath to go to hell and stuff, the sexual tension between them is through the roof, and she is always keen on him, despite the fact that he treats her like shit. And of course, you could read into like the psychology of it all. But the reality is, well, look at him. It's 2005's Keanu Reeves. Like, he might be an asshole, but he still looks like Keanu Reeves. He's handsome as fuck. So no wonder she still wants a piece of him, despite the fact that he's treating her like crap. So again, I think if he's not handsome and likable in the way that Keanu is, I think the whole character, you just can't get on board with him. The movie substance doesn't work. You don't buy into the idea that Rachel Weisz would be into him at all. So I think a big part of the reason that this movie works on any level is because Keanu is he's just one of those screen personas. He's just so watchable and so likable.
Well, yeah, you said it twice already, and it's not I've not got a problem with it. The fact that he's not blonde, the fact that he's not Scouse. Because if he was blonde and Scouse, he'd have to be on the streets of London and Liverpool. If you're going to go that way, you've got to do it properly. Or he's going to be in the swamps, because he came into Swamp Thing, didn't he? That was when he was first introduced back in 85. Yeah.
Alan Moore?
Alan Moore. Yeah, Alan Moore wrote him in 1985 in Swamp Thing. So the fact that they've moved geographically to LA, New York, where are
they? It's LA, yeah.
LA.
And so beautifully shot, by the way.
LA. Yeah, it looks. So the fact that they've moved to LA, absolutely fine. So he's American. That's fine. I've not got a problem with that. To be fair, that's the thing. I've not got a problem with a lot of this film.
I know what you mean. Totally,
it's just Marmite. It is just so middle of the road. It's
no, Marmite's the wrong term.
Marmite's lover. I hate this. Sorry, yeah.
No, right, I see what you mean. It's Switzerland. Yeah, it's a great way.
It is Switzerland. It. It's just so down the middle. And either way, I thought I was going to have a real big problem with Shia LaBeouf. He's fine in it. For the 3 or 4 scenes he's in it, he's absolutely fine. Again, Chaz Kramer is meant to be a London cabbie, so if you want to have an issue with fucking Keanu, you got to have an issue with Chaz not being. That's what I mean. So because you've moved it, it's absolutely fine. Get off your high horse about Constantine being that, because that's not the issue. It's just
it's not.
But it does really well. Like you've got Tilda Swinton. You did a great Tilda Swinton, by the way. And that matches for the fact that you look like Tilda Swinton when you share that photo that I gave you the other week,
of course,
the other day. I mean, you already know this.
Cracking Tilda Swinton, yeah. I've been told.
I mean, the listeners already know this now. I like to take our faces and put it into characters, and for some reason, I seem to just match really well with anyone with an angry face. So
if someone's just angry, like one of the ones you've done is for Peter Stormare as Satan, and he's walking is one of his scenes. It's not one of his smiley scenes. It's when he's walking through the glass at the end of the film, and another amazing scene in this film, and he just looks angry, and you can just put your face on there, and it just looks like you in the film. It's ridiculous. Whereas me and my apparently effeminate features just do very well.
You make a very good Tilda Swinton.
Very strange, very strange.
The one person I did have an issue with is because he's not an actor as well. Gavin Rossdale as Balthazar.
Gavin Rossdale has always, for me, been the weak link in this movie. And one of his lines in particular, when he says, "finger licking good," yes. I have to stop listening. And this goes back to when the film first came out, and I watched it a few times back in the day because I had it on DVD. It bothers me, and I don't know why it bothers me so much. And I was like, was he just in this? But if you look back at his IMDb, like he was in Zoolander, he was in How to Rob a Bank, he was in The Bling Ring, and he was also in a few TV shows. So for a while there, he was an actor. He's not a great actor, and the problem is with Balthazar, you immediately, like the other side of the Balthazar coin is Tilda Swinton. So you naturally compare them, and they're a bit of a pair in this movie, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the problem is, it's an unflattering comparison because Tilda Swinton is a fantastic actress, and Gavin Rossdale, I'm going purely based on this. I've not seen his movies or his TV work. He's not the best thing about this film. In a film with so many great actors and actresses, or just actors, if you want to call them that now, he does stand out like something of a sore thumb. But that one line, that finger licking good line, it legitimately makes my fucking toes curl.
Another one who wasn't in it for long, but I absolutely adored, and I've always liked his stuff anyways, Pruitt Taylor Vince as Father Hennessy.
Ooh, I mean, the name's a little on the nose for somebody with a drinking problem.
Yeah.
But he is Hennessy. Very good, but he gives, I mean, because of the nature of him, like he always gives massive performances.
Yeah.
I always associate him, and again, it's another big performance for reasons I won't go into spoilers, because if you haven't watched Identity before, which he's in, it is one of my like favorite noughties horror films alongside was it Dead End? Was that the one where they drive down the road forever?
With Ray Weiss, the 2004 one. Yeah.
So they were released within a year of each other, and I just adore those two films. I'm terrified to go back to them because I'm worried they, because Identity had a pretty good cast. Was it like Ray Liotta was in it, and John Cusack?
John Cusack and Gary Busey's kid, Jake Busey. And that Identity, yeah, I liked Identity. I wouldn't have put that before this film. It's 2003.
Yeah, Identity is ages ago, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Again, I just think of it as like mid-noughties. But if you haven't seen them before, Dead End and Identity, don't look up what the deal is. They've both got great premises, pretty good. Dead End kind of shits the bed with the very final scene, but Identity is a fucking great one. And I love both movies, in fairness.
What did you think, going back to this film, about the lack of explanation for a few things? And I've got two particular ones. The first one is Rachel Weisz. Sorry, I keep calling her Rachel Weisz. What's her name in this?
Angela.
Angela's partner, Detective Weisz, played by Jose Zuniga. He's got a sling. No explanation as to why he's walking around with his arm in a sling. I'm assuming that happened to the man in real life, and they went, "Oh, it's fine. He's only in 2 scenes. We might as well just keep him in." Like,
there is more to this film. There's a few characters as well who are just completely cut. So there's quite a bit of this movie that's on the cutting room floor. So I think that might have something to do with it. I mean, it's such a Rob thing. Of all the things to pick out in terms of things which are poorly explained in this film, you picked out the fact that he's got a sling and that doesn't get explained, because I think one of the biggest crimes of this film is that for the first half, I think it's actually very admirable that it doesn't go too big on the jargon. Shit just kind of happens, and it just lets you kind of like the world kind of wash over you a little bit. And then somewhere in the second half, it's like they bottled it and went, we've got to start explaining this. And suddenly the jargon comes in heavy, and it's just all of a sudden you've got Basil exposition on every single thing you're seeing, all the rules of heaven and hell and earth and all that shit. And I was like, guys, you were doing so well for like 45 minutes where you largely just left this be. The other issue, of course, being maybe because the main plot is hinted at in a fantastic opening, by the way. We talked about the CG in hell. Other than that, this film looks fantastic. And it's not just the CG, the cinematography, the direction from Francis Lawrence, who's got quite an IMDb if you go back and look at it. He's one of those directors where you probably wouldn't know his name immediately, but then you go back and look, it's like I Am Legend in 2007. He did the Hunger Games trilogy, Red Sparrow in 2018. And he also did a bunch of music videos from our youth. He did like Warning by Incubus. He did Audio Slave. He did Skater Boy by fucking Avril Lavigne. That was a massive one. Alanis Morissette, Shakira, all these kind of really famous music videos from back in the day. But he's definitely got an eye, and you see it from that opening sequence where the Mexican dude, he's found the Spear of Destiny, and the car hits him. I was like, that looked fucking dope for a movie from 2005. And they lean into all the slow motion stuff, and it's a bit like they keep going back to the well, but it looks cool for the most part, I think. But yeah, it's like they have that kind of storyline with the Spear of Destiny and Satan's son, Mamoon. Mamoon, is it? Is that what his name is?
I didn't get his name.
Oh, well, I'll go with Mamoon for now. It's not quite that. I've got it written down somewhere. But then that storyline just kind of disappears. And then they kind of throw it all at you at the end. Mamon. Sorry.
We also need to...
Sounds like a Sesame Street fucking character.
We also need to go back, because I had 2 points and you just went off on a massive tangent.
That's not like me at all. I don't know what you're talking about. I never do that.
The other one they don't explain is why, and I had his name a second ago, why Beeman gets paid for all of his occult stuff in animal sound boxes.
Again, another character whose name is so incredibly on the nose. Beeman, for a guy who's really into bugs.
Bugs, yeah.
Get it. He's an odd character. I don't, again, like you, I don't get what's going on. I don't get the financial reward system. He's kind of like, I guess he's the criminal. He's Constantine's Q, yeah? Like he provides him with all the weapons and all the goodies, like Q would to James Bond. Only
I was going Microchip for the Punisher, but that's where we differ.
Fucking nerd. But where does he live? Like the back of a bowling alley?
The back of a bowling alley, yeah. An empty bowling alley. Like you've seen that bowling alley 3 times. Was there ever anyone in there? And that's the other thing. Unless you're part of Constantine's, I guess, world, or you're just driving a car. There's not really many people in this world.
Consider it's LA, central LA. But I like the fact that, and again, one of the reasons I think it still looks so good is this whole film has this like kind of horror occult noir look about it. And the way he shoots LA, in like the bowling alley is a perfect example. You're like, it's an old-fashioned bowling alley. You don't see much in the way of technology. Everything looks like it could be from decade X. I'm like, it could be 30s, 40s, 50s. There are obviously signs every so often, but for the most part, there's not like a great deal which tells you, oh, this is from 2005, because it really leans into the noir aspect of the horror noir, but it's really a noir. And maybe part of that is simply because this was a PG, well, they were filming it as a PG-13, but because it had so many like religious references, it ended up R-rated anyway. But I think the director will look back as like this wasted opportunity because they obviously wanted to push the envelope, and they do, tiptoe around it with some of the horror stuff, but they never go all out on the blood, the violence, the gore, whatever, because they were like, they were going for a PG-13. It ends up R-rated anyway, and what it ends up feeling is a slightly diluted R-rated movie, and you're just like, this film just needed a bit more edge to it, I thought, to really set it aside and set it from the crowds. And hopefully we'll get that in the sequel that they've talked about. But because whatever, I know what you mean completely about this film just being fine. I think it's a bit better than that, and I think the highs are actually pretty high, but if somebody watches this film and they're just like, oh, it's just like the quintessential 3-star movie, I totally understand it. But by the end of it, I'm like, you've done the heavy lifting, you've done the jargon. What you've done is create an interesting world, a cinematically very interesting world with a fantastic lead. You could be off to the races then. But obviously, because it didn't make tons of money, it's just kind of disappeared. So if we can get a sequel in 2025, 2026, I would be like, you can make a great movie out of this. It's just this movie, being the first one, had to do a bit too much heavy lifting, and they didn't quite get over the whole exposition bullshit thing.
That's the good thing. You don't really need to do a sequel of this either. It's just the character of Constantine. Just move him on. I mean, he's now miraculously healed from his lung cancer and everything like that. So just move him on. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So just give him another story to go. Just to have the kid older now. So he's older. He's
just have it in that world. It doesn't have to have any connection to the first one. We know who Constantine is. He's better now. He chews gum rather than smoking cigarettes. Fine. He's older. He's even more cynical. That's
one thing, right? We're saying that he's not blonde. He's not again. We're saying that the one thing they decided to keep of the character. Oh, let's make him smoke, but not just like let's make him smoke. Fucking hell, dude! Like that was ridiculous. That triggered me. The amount of smoking he did.
It's a weird one because I can be a bit of a sucker for that because I hardly ever smoke anymore, but I do when I go on holiday. I do when I have a drink, which is very, very rarely. So I'll often go like 3-4 months without smoking, no problem. But every so often, if I see it on screen and it's shot in a certain way, like Mad Men was a real trigger for me. People just sitting around drinking whiskey and just smoking luxurious looking cigarette. They just made it look fucking cool. When it billows out and stuff, you're like, fuck, man, I could go for a cigarette. In this, there is the initial aspect of like, oh man, he's smoking all those cigarettes. I can go for a cigarette. But then they keep telling you it's like, he's got lung cancer. And like, no, maybe I shouldn't have that cigarette. So, there's two sides of that coin for sure.
And it's funny. When I say triggering, and I'm going to bring it down a little bit now, is because my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. When he was diagnosed with lung cancer, the first thing he did when he went outside, spark up. Well, they got me. Now I might as well carry on. So every time I
very much did that in the film, didn't he? So,
every time I saw this in the film, I was just thinking, fucking hell, this is like life imitates art. It was ridiculous. It
can be a bit brutal, but it is weird that I think they did need to keep the smoke because I do think that's an important part of the character, and I think
keep the smoke, but fucking hell, the smoking.
I know, but that's the thing, though. I think quintessentially, you keep the essence of the character. I'm one of these people, and I know the fucking internet gets fucking butthurt about this stuff. It's like, he doesn't look exactly like he doesn't look. Who gives a fuck? Give me the essence of the character. Like, right, if you look at Constantine in the Arrowverse, or what this TV show's called? There's like a universe.
The Arrowverse. Yeah, it was. So he did Constantine, didn't he? He had his own one, but then he was. That was cancelled after one season, and he was brought into the fucking Legends of Tomorrow, I think it was.
Yeah. Right, I'm sure he's perfect. I don't watch the Arrowverse.
But Matt Ryan is really good. I've seen the Constantine. Sorry to interrupt. I've seen the Constantine TV series. Matt Ryan is fantastic in it.
I have no doubts that I read that he's really good. The show had really good reviews. One of my big issues, and it's true of the entirety of the Arrowverse and part of its budget, of course, But because they were like, oh, we want this to be so comics like specific, comic accurate, and he is comic accurate with the tie and the coat turned up. But you know what it just looks like to me? It looks like cosplay. It looks like fucking cosplay. Whereas Keanu Reeves looks like he belongs in the real world. And sure, you can have that cosplay look if you're in the MCU or you're in this distinctly comic book universe. But despite all the, heaven, hell, demons, all that shit, the whole point of this is they're putting it in a city on Earth, and they're leaning into the noir thing. It would have looked fucking ludicrous if he had that tan jacket with it turned up at the collar and he had his hair dyed blonde. It would just look dumb.
That's right. He did need a tan jacket, I think. I think that's the one thing he did. He needed the tan jacket. But the other thing, right? I mean, Matt Ryan wasn't even Scouse. Dude's from fucking Swansea. He's from Swansea.
Did he put on a Scouse accent for it?
No, he put on some weird Cockney English.
There's no way he was just doing a Swansea accent.
No, he wasn't doing that.
How's it going, but how many fucking demons you got around here, but? Or mush. That's another one they say, isn't it? Mush in Swansea.
If you ever get, because the TV series wasn't Arrowverse, so it wasn't watered down. If you ever get a chance, it is good. It's 13 episodes. I heard it was good. Very good. Yeah.
No, I do plan on getting around to it, but I just mean from an aesthetic standpoint. And it is purely aesthetic. Like, I know people have an attachment to the show, and I'm not criticizing the show, but that whole vibe with the TV where they really go for the comic accurate look, so often to me, at a glance, it just looks like cosplay. Whereas I actually think Keanu looks great in this. And one of the reasons the film has aged so well and doesn't look like a distinctly 2005 movie is because what he's wearing is completely timeless. All black, white shirt, black tie. It just looks cool. The only things that actually give it away are Chaz's hat, unforgivable. That was just a thing that was back then. And we all blame Samuel L. Jackson for that. And Rachel Weisz, who insists, and it drove my wife crazy when watching this, she insists on wearing black bras under an array of white tops, just all the time, just absolutely 2005 shit. And there was actually one other thing, and it's also with Rachel Weisz. I'm not sure if you noticed, when there's a scene and she's in her apartment, and it's the first time things are starting to get weird around her, her phone rings, then the other phone rings, then the other phone rings, then her fax machine with the phone rings, and you're like, how many fucking phones has she got?
Dude, my first fucking note, I was waiting to say it. How many phones does Rachel Weisz have in that apartment? Like, literally, it was fucking insane. It was doing my Swede in.
Well, she had all the phones, and they wanted one more, and they're like, wow, this is already a lot of phones. Like, she could have a phone on a fax machine, which she keeps at home. Perfect.
They were ringing in her office, and then for some reason, she had separate landlines in her living room because she was looking through, like, more phones were ringing. It was insane.
I mean, I'll go on the assumption that the phones are connected, and under normal circumstances, if somebody rung one, the other one would be engaged. But because this is demons and shit that they can technologically get around that, I'll allow it. It still doesn't mean you should have 17 phones in your fucking small-ass apartment. It's bananas. Oh, and as great as she's in it, as great as she is in it, when Tilda Swinton goes full angel and she's got those like trousers with like the crosses on the back, it looks like an Evanescence video. It just totally does. Oh, and speaking of which, right, and we put this up on Facebook. We're doing Constantine. And Dave, who's been on this podcast a bunch of times, said exactly what I thought he was going to say. The fucking music for this film rocks. Like, this movie is so Dave's soundtrack.
I love the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is great.
It's fine. It's a little bit, oh, this is a 2005 movie. Did you not think, oh, well, this places it in a certain time and place in a way that the aesthetic perhaps didn't?
No, I didn't. I thought the soundtrack was great. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was bad, terrible, or anything.
I didn't think it was terrible. Everything about it to me just sounded like, oh, I'm watching a 2005 movie. That was what I took from it, especially when he goes into the club to see Papa Midnight and all that jazz.
Well, that's what I've been trying to say for the last 15 minutes, but you haven't stopped.
Sorry,
what did you think of Papa Midnight's 70s look with the collar over the leather jacket and the like bowler hat or whatever kind of hat that is, trilby or whatever? But I liked his look. I thought it was really good.
I thought it was good. I mean, Shimon Honsu has one of those, like, not just a unique voice, but such a unique intonation. So he's just an interesting character on screen anyway. Again, I think it helped give that movie the timelessness about it, where you're just like, this guy looks like he's from the 70s. The club feels like 2005. Constantine looks like he's from 1930 or something. It just gives all this kind of vibe where I'm just like, oh, it's like LA, but out of time, like a cinematic version of LA. And he adds that. And like, he's not in a huge amount, but Papa Midnight leaves his mark.
But that's the thing, none of them are in a huge amount.
No.
Unless you're Constantine or Rachel Weisz, everyone's just got one or two scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you recognize, or not recognize, but I say, did the bouncer of Papa Midnight's club remind you of anybody?
Not off the top of my head.
No? I don't have his name, so I'm not going to say his name, but that is The Rock's cousin, who is also his stunt double in a lot of his films. Yeah.
Did not notice that.
Tanoia Reed or Tanoia, Tanoai.
Yeah, Tanoia, like, because it'd be kind of like, I assume, like, I don't know, Kiwi or something, Southeast Islanders kind of vibe. So, yeah, probably. Like
Honolulu, Hawaii was born, so.
Oh, well, there we go. There we go. But yeah, there's like, it's a good point. Like you say, like a lot of people come in and out of this film. Like the one that really surprised me actually was when I think of this film beyond, and we'll get to the devil in a bit. We're obviously building up to this because it's one of the great interpretations of the devil in my book. But after you think immediately of Rachel Weisz and Keanu Reeves, obviously the one that jumps out is Shia LaBeouf as Chaz Kramer. Now, two things for this film, going back to it. One, I thought he was in this movie loads more than he is. He's hardly in it at all. Yeah. And two, I absolutely forgot that he died. Absolutely forgot. It came as a genuine shock when he died. I was like, fuck, Chaz is dead.
No. Was this one of the first ones as well that had a post-credit scene? Were post-credit scenes big back then?
They weren't massive. I mean, when I think of post-credit scenes, I go right back to 1987 and Masters of the Universe. That was the first time I ever came to it when Skeletor comes back at the goop at the end of the film.
Course. Yeah,
they weren't popular. Like, it really was. There were a few films where they were thrown in, but it really was the Marvel films starting in 2007, which kind of popularized them, that's for sure.
Do you know when you first see Chaz and he's looking in the mirror and he's like, my name's Chaz, asshole, or whatever he says.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole move the car thing. When they brought the mirror in, and then Constantine seems to have found the world's strongest telephone cable and longest telephone cable.
Oh, this is the opening sequence when he's doing the exorcism, yeah?
Yeah. So he's found the world's strongest and longest telephone cable or electric cable, I guess, to tie the mirror up to pull it out. When they went to pull it out and it got stuck in the window, and Constantine's first initial thought was to just put more weight behind it and pull it out. When you have tilted it, there was 4 men holding it.
Of course, all you had to do was slightly twist it. You had to, in the classic words of Ross Geller, pivot. That was all you had to do. Just pivot that motherfucker, and it goes out the window, no problem. But he's like, no, I'm going to pull on this until literally the wood on the edge of the window snaps and it goes through anyway. It's just like, you just didn't think it through. Aesthetically, did it look cool? Yes. And I really like that sequence. Again, in terms of setting out your stall, that opening is like a proper horror movie.
Yeah,
with
it's great.
With the little girl and stuff like that, is it's a proper exorcism. And I like the idea of the scene, but I'm the same as you. I couldn't get over the idea that all they had to do was slightly twist the mirror and it goes out without any problem.
And what happens with that poor guy now who turned completely white and is just scratching his head now? Is he fucked for life?
Yeah, I think he's just fucked for life. I think he's just great.
Like, all right, I saved you, girl. That's fine, but that guy's fucked. I can't help him at all.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is, like, they've got no video footage. It's 2005. Nobody's got video phones. He goes to people. It's like, dude, what happened to your hair? It's like, oh, I saw there was an exorcism and I saw a demon and my hair turned grey. It's like, yeah, whatever, dude. You just turned grey.
He didn't even see a demon. He saw a little girl just speaking in tongue.
Yeah, but he said, like, don't look. They were almost like, it was very much a Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe. Close your eyes. You don't want to see this. It's like a power you're not ready for. And for some odd reason, it just turned his hair grey. If anything, I actually thought he looked quite, stylish with the grey goatee in the hair. So it's very, and this is a few years after Cisco. He could have totally got away with that shit.
Then he was clawing at his face the whole time as well, like he's batting something away from his face.
Yeah,
so I'm all right with being turned grey, but the fact you've got to live through your life now just batting at your face, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I'd like to think that kind of passes. Like he's because he wouldn't know his facial hair has changed color or his hair. So it must be something about, like, is it like the bad thing is if you see a demon, as it's been, I don't know, exorcised out of a young girl's body, not only does your hair turn silvery gray, but your face just gets really itchy forever. Like, that's what happens. Like, oh, dude, it just will not stop itching. You have no idea how fucking annoying this is, which sounds like low key, but imagine your face itched for the rest of your life. I mean, you were mentioning earlier about, like, Was it like you went out and had a couple of drinks with the guys, and then suddenly you had uncontrollable hiccups and you had to leave?
Yeah.
Now, I think they do a joke about Family Guy, where the dude is like, oh, this guy's been hiccuping for 26 years, and he's just like, hiccuping, kill me, hiccuping, kill me. I'm like, yeah, I think he'd be in the same league. If my face itched that much, I think after like maybe a week, and if I couldn't get rid of it, I'm like, well, I'm just going to fucking kill myself now. So, and it's such a lame way to die. It really is the devil's move, that one.
Yeah. Think about something else in this film. It was an absolutely pointless scene because you couldn't see him do it. But I love the holy shotgun. I thought the holy shotgun looked fucking ace.
Well, that and the holy knuckle duster, would you call it? The blessed knuckle.
Better than the holy hand grenades, which is basically they just look like Christmas baubles filled up with water.
Yeah, and holy hand grenades always reminds me of the video game Worms, so they're always slightly silly. But yeah, it's almost a shame that you don't get more of that, because early in the film, obviously, it's suggested that he's going to have this array of imaginative weaponry to take out the demons, because he's got Q on his side. So he has like the little bug in the box. He's got the cool cross shotgun thing and the knuckle duster. But then it just kind of like runs dry. And he's just like, he just keeps going back to the cross, shotgun flamethrower thing.
Yeah, Dragon's and how much Dragon's breath is held in that little thing as well that he had at the end. Anyway, they're questions that I can't really answer.
No, but it's cool, and again, it sets him apart. And you get that one action sequence earlier in the film where he like lights his hand on fire. I actually think it's really cool, where him and Rachel Weisz go out into the streets, and all the lights go out on the streets, and then suddenly he lights his hand, and there's all the demons and stuff. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But other than that, there's not actually a huge amount of action in this movie until he has that showdown with Gavin Rossdale. And believe me, I was very happy to see him punch Gavin Rossdale's face off, which is a mean thing to say because I always quite liked the band Bush. But he punched his face off with the holy knuckle duster. And I go, oh, we're off to the races now. And from then on, it does probably turn into an action film, because you go from that sequence to the scene where Rachel Weisz gets like dragged through. I always think of it as like the money shot of the movie. Like it was the one they used in the trailer, where she gets dragged between all the buildings, the walls keep blowing up, and he's running behind her between the buildings. That scene still looks dope. Then
and that's sorry, that's what I wanted to mention. I know you said it was the money shot, but I absolutely love that when he jumps over the elevator shaft. Mm-hmm. And then he keeps running, and then he can't run anymore. He does that stop, and then it just pans out, and he's just at the end of the building. I think it looks fucking ace. I'm
glad you mentioned that when he pulls up at the end, because one of the things I love about this film, and I love about all Keanu films, we've all decided he's a great movie star. He's not always the best actor in the world, but what Keanu has is unique physicality, and there's something about the way he pulls his jacket, the way he flicks his sleeve, even the way he lights his lighter, and the way he pulls up at the end. He's not just athletic, he's just got a unique way of moving, which just always catches my attention. There's a bit early in the film where he just pulls up his sleeves. I'm just like, Keanu, just doing it a bit different to everyone else.
It was the other part, when he's fighting that bug monster and he's trying to get the screeching beetle.
Yeah.
And then he realizes he doesn't need it anymore because he could see out of his peripheral, he can see that truck coming. So the way he just looks at the demon and just chucks it, and he has a sly grin on his face as the thing gets smashed, and then he's just there stamping on bugs, and you're like, can anyone do that like Keanu?
I don't think they can, and honestly, I think this is, I mean, like you said, you've probably already given away what your score is going to be for this, and I still haven't completely made my mind up, but what I think moves this, potentially elevates it above kind of 3-star mediocrity or 2.5-star mediocrity, whatever you want to do, is the fact that it has a proper movie star like Keanu. And for all its faults, I always enjoy this film because for the vast majority of the movie, the camera is on Keanu, and he's just super watchable. He's obviously keen on the character, wants to do right by the character. And just from beginning to end, I'm just like, man, I just like watching this guy on screen. He's fucking awesome.
I mean, my only fear now for the sequel is it going to be John Wick Constantine? Like, have we got to the point now where Constantine is... No, I hope it's not that as well. Yeah, but I mean, you never know.
Well, the closest they come to that is, and it's the scene I forgot about, was the sequence right after the building sequence. As I mentioned, like it builds up like from that point on. Once he punches Gavin Ross down the face with his knuckle duster, it's like, all right, we're off to the races. You go from that action sequence to that one. And the one I really forgot was the scene in the hospital, which was like a cross between like Blade and remember the scene from Kingsman when he goes fucking batshit and kills everyone in the church? Yeah. It's shot like that. And I was like, fuck, this sequence is really good, like really well choreographed. But to your point, I think it's important that there's this, like, he's fallible. Like, he's not a suit, like, despite this being a superhero movie or a comic book movie, whatever you want to call it, is that he's not John Wick. He's not superhuman in terms of, oh, he can just, like, take down 20, 30. Like, the reason he can take them down is because he knows how to, not because he has this outrageous set of superhuman skills or anything.
And that's it as well, because I mean, he can't. Like you said, he's not superhuman. He's not going to go one-on-one with an angel. He can't. So the only way, and this is going to bring us into a fantastic scene, but the only way he can see out of this now to save Angela is to, again, take his own life, because everyone's been hinting. I mean, a foreshadowing fucking from day one. You're the only soul now the devil will come and collect. Okay, well, we need the devil to see Mammon, so I might as well just kill myself. What I like about that, and I will go into, actually, I'll go into it now. Peter Stormare's look. The fact that he's the devil, but he's dressed in white. Like, it's all white, but he's got the tar coming off his feet, and it's the tattoos running up his neck and things like that. So
do you know what? It's one of the first movie firstly to bring up, I think Peter Stormare's interpretation of the devil is one of my favorites ever on screen. And it's both a blessing and a curse, no pun intended, that he's on screen for such a short amount of time, because part of you wants him on screen so much more because he's so great. But the other part, you're just like, but it's awesome that he's kept aside until right at the end of the film, you get this like amazing 5-6 minutes of him, and then he's gone. And you're just like, fuck, man, he knocked it out of the park. One day shooting, rolls up. And to bring it back to the white suit, it's, I think visually what they're going for is, and it's something most interpretations forget, is that he was an angel. He's a fallen angel. Like, that's the whole point. So he's still almost got the getup of an angel, but he's covered in tar and filth because, now he's the unclean one, as Tilda Swinton tells us.
And that, but they didn't get that. I'm going to go into facts here a little bit. The production didn't get that. It was Peter Stormare that got that. Peter Stormare came up with his own costume design for the appearance of Lucifer. The off-white linen suit with tar dripping down from his feet, as specifically mentioned. The producer and director had initially wanted leather trousers, bare-chested, a dog collar with spikes, and tattoos over Stormare's face and chest. That is wrong. That is Stormare coming in and going, no, my character is this. Like the cleanliness on the outside, but filthy on the inside. Like,
an ex-angel who's fallen. So he's still an angel, but he's just taken the wrong turn. So he's made all the right choices. Like you said, that description just sounds horrifying in all the wrong ways.
What I loved as well was their interaction as well. Like, everything from him lighting the cigarette for John because, as he said, something about the tendons don't work anymore.
Yeah, because he slit his own wrist. It's pretty nasty.
When you cut that deep, the tendons don't work. But it's, John, you're the only soul I'd come up here to collect. And John just goes, yeah, I heard that. But then it's the other thing. He goes, I never thought you'd make the same mistake twice. And he goes, but you haven't, have you? So he knows John has done this for a reason. And then John's not got outright saying, how's the family? How's the kid? Yeah. Your kid's in there now with Gabriel. And do you want to...
The interactions are amazing. The only issue I have with that sequence, and again, right, it's not just his look, it's that slow motion thing, which I don't think they overdo, when the glass smashes and he walks into the room and you've got Gabriel, is that her name?
Gabriel, yeah.
Character.
Gabriel.
The stabs coming down really slow. It still looks awesome. His like smart, love it all. I love his kind of like back and forth between, he's almost like a little bit jokey, then he's like quite mean and scary. It's like, it's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's like all things to all people, I suppose. The only issue is when John makes the sacrifice to save his own life, I'm like, man, like, that's a fourth quarter call. Sorry to use terrible, football analogies. But how did he not see that coming? Like, he goes to drag John away and he said, like, the sacrifice. I'm like, come on, dude. You've been around for thousands. You didn't see that coming. We all saw that. Of course he was going to get away with it. Jesus Christ.
I did like him flipping the bird, though, as he's going up to heaven.
It was very cool. Yeah. I mean, this film, like, it's weird because I think it starts really well. It gets a little bit saggy in the middle, like I said, with all the jargon, and you lose that core storyline, and then you suddenly have to jump back into it at the end. When it does, and obviously the film gets a massive injection of quality when Peter Stormare shows up at the end of the film, it has these great moments. It just has that flabby section where it gets caught up in, we've got to explain this world, and it comes at the cost of actually the core narrative. because they're too busy like finding excuses to explain all the rules to you, that the core narrative of the film just gets lost for like 40 minutes. And then, as awesome as it is, when it's suddenly landed back on your plate at the end, you're like, oh yeah, the devil's son. I just totally forgot about him. I forgot about the fucking spear. And you're just like forced into this like big finale, which looks awesome, but I also kind of don't give a fuck about. Like the only thing I really care about at that point is John surviving, and he only survives because like the devil gives him a free out, basically.
And it's funny because you mentioned about the spear, which was the same spear that was used in Hellboy, by the way, the year earlier.
Oh, was it really?
And this is and this is why it couldn't be called Hellblazer, because they were both released around about the same time, and they didn't want people confusing it with Hellboy
And there was
and Hellraiser.
That was my big issue. Was not Hellraiser as well. What's his name? Oh my god, we did one of his movies. Hellblazer? No.
This is Hellblazer.
Clive Barker's
Hellraiser.
Sorry. I was thinking of another film as well.
I wonder where you were going. I said it 3 times. Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, but I was thinking of a different. I do apologize. I was thinking of Hellraiser.
We have done a Clive Barker film, but that was Nightbreed.
Nightbreed. Yeah, I think I was getting them all very confused. But yeah, they sound far too similar. So sorry. Apologies.
No, I don't even know what my fucking point was. Oh, the Spear of Destiny. Sorry. So I was going. It's introduced at the beginning. It's given this guy invincibility. I mean, and then all of a sudden,
and the power to jump over fences.
Yeah, by using barbed wire to springboard himself. I like how he used that. He pulled it down as if it was like some sort of elastic band and then jumped over. That was all fine, but that was it. It was just it was scattered throughout the film. Very like it wasn't. There was no explanation about it or anything. And then okay, we need the Spear of Destiny to pierce a hole in Angela to let Mammon come through, I guess.
Well, that's the thing again, because obviously they link it back to Angela and Rachel Weisz. And Rachel Weisz, we've not mentioned, like, she's fantastic in this. Like, she doesn't have a lot to work with. She gets caught up in a lot of the exposition in the middle part of the film, but she's she's one of the more likable lead actresses of like late 90s, early 2000s cinema. But we suddenly get all caught up on the story of her sister. Like, that suddenly feels like the story. And then you're almost like, oh yeah, the spear and the devil's son. And I was like, I just forgot that was the point of the movie. So I think that is it has its issues and maybe doesn't do quite enough to set itself apart from other films. But I think it's the biggest issue is that it gets so caught up in explaining its bullshit world that it loses that core plot. And I'm just like, dude, like you had that confidence for 30, 40 minutes. Just people are filling the gaps. People have read people know about the Bible. It doesn't matter if they know all the details. And as I said, I thought it was admirable for the first half of the film. And then they just totally overcompensated in the second half, where it feels like a second screenwriter or somebody in a suit has come in and go, I'm not sure if this makes sense. And they've just gone to fucking town then with the jargon and the exposition, which is a bit of a shame because, as I said, ends really strong again.
I'm sorry to take us on a tangent. I was just going back through A Tale of Vince, right? Mm-hmm. Did you know he's going to be in the new Superman, James Gunn Superman?
Who's this, sorry?
A Tale of Vince, Father Hennessy.
Oh, yeah, he's playing Papa Wayne or whatever it is.
Papa Wayne. Jonathan Kent,
Papa Wayne. What am I talking about? Jonathan Kent. I'm a big Superman fan as well.
So they're going back the other way because you had like that kind of, I don't know, frailish looking version of Pa Kent in the original Superman. And then you had a little bit of it in the Dean Cain Superman, New Adventure Superman one. And then you went to basically I Can Kill the World with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
And now you're going back the other way again with the frailish.
It's another one. I like him, don't get me wrong, but fuck me, he is no, Kevin Costner. Like I loved I mean, I'm one of the bigger fans of Zack Snyder's take on the Man, especially specifically the first one, the Man of Steel movie.
Yeah.
And Kevin Costner, he just has a couple of those moments where, he doesn't have a huge number of lines, but when he does, like he does that little crack in his voice, you're like, fucking hell, Kevin Costner's come to play. I'm not sure if, as likable as he is, I don't think Pruitt Taylor Vince has that in the locker in the same way. But like I said, I've got a lot of concerns, and I really want, like, God knows, I want this new Superman movie to be fantastic. Cinematically, it's always been the superhero I look forward to seeing the most on the screen because I think of like what you can potentially do with it. I think he's like when we did the Christopher Reeve 1978 version, it's just an inherently cinematic character. There are a lot of warning signs about this film, starting with the suit and everything that comes with it. I hope I'm 100%. I don't think it's going to be bad by any stretch. it's not grabbing me at the moment. But fingers crossed it all comes together at the end. But we shall see. We shall see.
All right, well, let's go back to this one. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we move on?
Well, I just find it interesting that a lot of people, when they think of this film, they do think of Shia LaBeouf, and a lot of people just have this issue with Shia. Like they keep saying like he's bad, and you go back and watch his film. I remember I had like a lot of stock in Shia LaBeouf when he was young, coming from like Holes and stuff like that. I was like, this kid's got something. And people get very caught up in this idea that Shia LaBeouf is. I'm like, Shia LaBeouf is really, even in this, he's good. And if you look at like, he's not very bankable nowadays, Shia LaBeouf. But it's like you look at his IMDb, and he's worked with Spielberg, Ayer, Michael Bay, Francis Ford Coppola, Lars von Trier, Oliver Stone. Like clearly, these guys are all seeing this thing in Shia LaBeouf, where he's got something, and you watch it in this, and it's like, yeah, he's playing like a slightly flimsy character, but he's got something, and he's always had that, I think.
So I do think and I am one of these people as well, mine, because I said it last week when you said about this film. I was like, fucking, do I have to watch a Shia LaBeouf film? I think Shia LaBeouf is a good actor. Now the problem, like him in Fury, fantastic. I think he's fucking great in that film.
Is that David Ayer film? Yeah,
yeah. I think Fury is absolutely fantastic. I like the Peanut Butter Falcon. I think great film, absolutely great film. The problem is whenever you think of Shia LaBeouf, you think of his overacting screaming in Transformers, and that seems to encompass everything else. That is what you will picture when you picture Shia LaBeouf, and it's that fucking terrible acting in a terrible film. And
I tell you what, I actually have not a soft spot, but I felt a lot better about. Well, there's a reason for this, because I'm not a big. I actually really like the first Transformers film, the 2007 one. The other ones not so much. But if you want to get an idea of like, you got to think about what he's working with, the kind of script he's working against, giant robots and stuff like that. I always thought he was fine. But my estimation of his performance actually grew after I saw Mark Wahlberg in the subsequent Transformers films. I was like, no. He did something. What he did is he helped to ground the film, because he just looks like a dude. And of course he has his shtick and stuff like that. But then suddenly when Mark Wahlberg was in it, all connection to the real world just drifted the fuck off into the ether. And I was like, I actually think I'd like Shia LaBeouf more because of Mark Wahlberg. But I can see why people like he rubs people up the wrong way, but he's a talented actor, and as I said, even in this, he doesn't have a massive role, and you might even find him annoying, but he leaves a mark. But I get to end the conversation on this movie on Shia LaBeouf.
Well, he's great in Disturbia, I'll give him that, and
yeah, he's good.
Fantastic in Lawless. I think Lawless. Only ever seen it once, but Lawless is absolutely great. Not a problem with Shia. Like I said, the problem with Shia LaBeouf is the fact that now, again, life imitates art. Like he has become that kind of, he said, unbankable character or actor. But also, I just don't like his Transformers take. I've never have. And my son at the moment, my son has got really gotten into Transformers. He's watching his Rescue Bot Academy. So we started watching the films again. And my God, it is struggle to get back and watch these films.
How did you find the first one? Because I have such fond memories of the first, like flawed, but I was like, that's a good stab at doing a Transformers movie. And then they just kept getting worse and worse, and they kind of half got it back for the recent ones. But they were actually, for all the criticisms you can point towards Michael Bay, those newer films. I'm thinking of Bumblebee and Beast Wars, whatever the fuck it's called.
Rise of the Beast.
That little bit of magic that Michael Bay had, like, and don't get me wrong, he does that thing where he'll shoot the sun through the crack of an underage girl's ass, and it's all a little bit gross, but he can shoot action sequences in a way that few can.
Yeah, to a point. My issue, I prefer Bumblebee, and I do prefer Rise of the Beast over the other ones. I have like the over convoluted way they transform. For a start, we all know the Transformers. They transformed in like 6 movements in the 80s. But everything, like a fucking nut transforms 6 times. It becomes too much.
You'll watch it, and again, I agree with you with the sequels. But in 2007, that was a technological marvel. It really was. I remember.
You asked me what it was like watching it now.
Yeah, of course.
That's what you asked me what it was like watching it now.
And I agree with you. Yeah. It's over. But in 2007, I remember there was like an advert in 2006 or 2005, and it was a car advert, and the car turned into a robot, And I think everyone's just like, fuck, they can do Transformers now. And I think that was like a proof of concept. They're like, wait, we can do this for an advert. Why can't we do it for a film? And it was a bit showy with all the parts moving and stuff. But in 2007, I was like, this looks fucking dope. But I think they've gone a bit too cartoon. But either way, we're supposed to be talking about Constantine, not fucking Transformers. But right. Sorry, to bring it back briefly to Shia LaBeouf. Sorry, I do apologize. I absolutely agree with you. He's one of the, because you talked about a lot of his performances there, ones you liked, and then you mentioned Transformers, and it's almost like Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg and Shia LaBeouf are two character actors who were forced into leading roles. If you look at Mark Wahlberg, him as a leading man, it just doesn't work. It never fucking works. However, both he and Shia LaBeouf have had amazing supporting character roles. Yeah. You know, you think of like The Departed. Like fucking Mark Wahlberg just rolls in a film full of stars. He almost steals the show with a support. But every time you know, when I think of like leading man and Mark Wahlberg, I think of fucking The Happening. I think of Planet of the Apes. Just an absolute shocker. And I think it's the same, you know, with Shia LaBeouf. They tried more leading man. I know he's supporting, but it's a big role in Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. You want him to be in this like weird ass character on the sideline who just comes in for 10 minutes, makes an impact, and fucking bounces. That's when he's at his best. But anyway, let's move on.
That's it. We need to move on, but I don't want us to move on after talking about Shia LaBeouf and everything that he's done that wasn't this film. So I will mention the hell scenes that always seem to be the same bridge or stretch of freeway or whatever it was.
That makes sense, so supposedly, because the idea is that, and this was the director's choice, is that hell...
The road to hell?
Well, no, it's just where they are. So the hell is actually just LA. So it's basically just like you've dropped down a level. So if they were filming this in Peru, for some, I don't know why I picked Peru, but hell would look like Peru. If this was shot in South Wales, hell would look like Cardiff. Like that's the vibe. Like you notice with the buildings and stuff, everything is just LA. So that's why you keep seeing the same kind of sites. But again, aesthetically, it's the weakest part of the film for sure. The hell sequences. But I love the fact that he goes to hell. The bit with the cat when he's holding up the cat and just stares in and it's like, oh, cats are perfect, half in, half out anyway. And as a cat owner, I can totally buy into the idea that cats are halfway to hell at any given fucking time.
Right, we've mentioned hell. We can move on now.
Yes.
Yeah. Favorite scene?
It's the same. I mean, I mentioned earlier the power outage sequence is like pretty good, but I feel we're going to come up with the same answer here. It's Satan finally showing up. I love, like, it's a total baller move by Constantine to cut his own wrists, and then Peter Stormare shows up, and I would go as far as say it's Alec Baldwin in Glengarry Glen Ross levels of cameo. Like, he just rolls up in this film, and it's not quite Glengarry Glen Ross because Alec Baldwin steps into a film with some of the most famous actors of all time and completely steals the movie in 5 minutes. But Peter Stormare comes in for 5 minutes, and he's the best thing about this movie. And he's one of the best interpretations of the devil that I've ever seen on screen, right down to the suit, his demeanor, everything about him. I love the slow-mo, as I mentioned earlier, and I love his like showdown with Tilda Swinton, because that's what gets, you know, other than Constantine, they get the most dialogue. It's like, little horn, son of perdition, most unclean. He's like, oh, I do love the old names. I just love all that stuff. So
I love as well when she goes, I will smite you. And she can't, and he goes, somebody's not on your side.
Yeah, it doesn't have your back anymore, or something like that. Some dick move. But it is Peter Stormare showing up as the devil, right from the aesthetics to his performance. Scene of the film for sure.
Yeah, it's from the moment life ticks away from John and the dripping comes down, the tar dripping off his feet, and as he's flying, like he's coming down. He should be coming up, but he's coming down, and that's some sort of.
That's cool. And the glass breaking should date it, but it doesn't. It just looks ace. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's my favorite scene, and I've said I fucking love Peter Stormare anyway, but he was fantastic in this.
Yeah. He's the MVP of this. And I love Keanu, but when I think of this film and the real, like the one who steals the show is totally Peter Stormare. Yeah. In terms of loves and hates, my loves are like, as we mentioned earlier, this idea that it was going for PG-13 and then ended up an R-rated movie, which is a bit of a disappointment, but they do at least go as horror as they can within the confines of PG-13, despite the fact that it ended up R. I know that sounds confusing, but that opening sequence, like, it really sets out the stall. Like, you know, the guy being hit by the car, I was like, wow, that is a genuinely shocking sequence. The exorcism scene is like a proper exorcism scene. So I like the fact that it goes full horror at times. Number two, Keanu. Like, I just think he's absolutely essential to this movie working for reasons we've already mentioned. And yes, three, we've already gone there, but it's Peter Stormare as Satan. The whole cast is good, except for, of course, Gavin Rossdale, who we both don't like. But the standouts are Keanu and Peter Stormare as the devil. So those are my loves.
Yeah. Well, 2 out of 3. And it's Keanu Reeves and Peter Stormare for my 1 and 2. Like, for most of the things you just said, to be fair, Keanu Reeves is great in this. He loves the character by the looks of it. He wanted to do right by the character. So, all right. And I think by not putting on, I mean, we've all heard his accent when he was fucking Lucifer's, the fucking lawyer one. What was that?
Oh,
film?
I love that film. That is a perfect example of an objectively bad film that I absolutely adore. The Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate, yeah.
So fucking watchable. Despite every time I'm watching, I'm like, I think this film might be absolute shit, and I fucking love it. And like a part of that is his accent, but I was immediately thinking of his British accent in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I've never seen Dracula, so
there's a bit when he's reading a letter, "Dearest Mina," and it's just like, wowzers, man. But he was in like Much Ado About Nothing. There was a spell in the early 90s where some fucking moron was like, let's make Keanu Reeves English in every movie. It's like, no, dude, how about don't? But yes, we don't need to hear Keanu doing a fucking Scouse accent. He's fine as is. Just let him be Keanu, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
let the film that star power it needs.
Peter Stormare for everything. The fact he chose that outfit, the fact they let him do it, like they were like, okay, yeah, okay, we'll do it that way. We'll shoot it this way, and he fucking steals the show, as we've already said. My third love is the look of the film. The look of LA, like the rainy LA, the dark. I mean, it's only light once, right at the beginning of the film where he does the exorcism. The rest of it is dark. And it feels like, do you remember that film? I think Alex Proyas directed it in 1998, Dark City.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like that. It feels like that you're never going to see another sunrise in this entire film. And I think it's such a wise way to do it. It's great. Constantine is better in the dark. Constantine is the dark. He is not light. So absolutely, he fights in the dark.
You know, like I mentioned, like there's loads of reasons this film has aged wonderfully. It's because of that horror cult noir style, but a lot of it comes from Francis Lawrence direction and the cinematography, which I mentioned earlier. And you see it from early on. There's a sequence where Isabel, Rachel Weisz's twin sister in the film, when she commits suicide, that shot is fucking dope because you see her, you're below in the pool, you see her jump off, she breaks through the glass, you have that slight delay, and then her going into the water. And I'm watching that and being like, that's like skilled stuff. That's not, you know, just like, oh, you just see them jump off the edge. That's a really well put together sequence, shot wonderfully in a city, which I'm totally buying into. But I totally agree with you. Despite that opening sequence in Mexico, it's nighttime all the time. Although I did like, is it in Mexico or is it just like, you know, south of LA? I can't remember how far he travels.
Well, for the exorcism.
Yeah, no, like the guy who gets the Spear of Destiny. Is that actually in Mexico, that opening sequence?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that fence he jumped over was the border, wasn't it?
Well, I like the fact, at least, that wasn't just bathed in orange, because this was the era of whenever you had a film and you were shooting a section in like Mexico or south of the border, they just put an orange tinge on everything. Everything just orange as fuck. It's just one of those weird things. But yeah, everything in LA, it's dark, it's gloomy, but it doesn't go the Seven David Fincher style. As I said, they really lean more into the noir, and just a good-looking movie. Good-looking movie.
Hates,
let me find, because I had to scroll up for some of the details. I do apologize. Hell, as we already mentioned, is a tad underwhelming. Not only does it look a little bit like an Xbox 360 video game, and not just in terms of the quality, I'm talking more in terms of the aesthetic choices that have been made. Number two, what was it? I would have liked them to go full R. So I know I mentioned earlier the fact that, you know, they go full horror, but they're still going for that PG-13 at some point. And you're just like, there are elements of this film where you just want them to nudge the violence, nudge the horror up another mark. And I think it would have made for a more interesting film. So it's a bit of a shame that they couldn't go there, despite the fact that they really could have gone there, if that makes sense. And number three, Rachel Weisz and her insistence on black bras below white shirts is just absolutely fucking unforgivable. And the trainers she wears with a suit, again, very 2005. If anything's put me in 2005 beyond the music, it's Rachel Weisz and her bizarre wardrobe selections. So those are my hits.
I would have put Hell first, but because you've already done it, I'm not gonna jump on your bandwagon for that. Usually we sometimes have the same, because I've had too many hates, and not in a bad way. So my first hate is going to be the fact that they don't explain why the guy is in a sling, why you're paying Beeman, you know, in, I don't know, musical farm animal boxes. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. A bit of explanation would be good, but okay, that's fine. Gavin Rossdale.
Oh, it's a good
Don't like
shout.
Gavin Rossdale in this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I should have had Rosdale on the list. That's an
yeah.
oversight on my
Especially
part.
as you said, I really hated that line. The fact you brought it back into my head when you said it, finger licking
Oh,
good. I fucking hate it.
how have I
Yeah,
not got that as number one with a
yeah,
bullet? It's one of the first things. As much as I like this film, and I think of Stormare as the devil, and I think of how much I like Keanu Reeves as Constantine. Like the third thing on the list is fucking Gavin Rossdale saying "finger licking good" and me wanting to punch him in the face. So yeah, I mean, at least he does eventually get punched in the face, so that's fine, I suppose. But I hate that fucking line.
and the third one is the fact I was triggered by all of the smoking. Like, like I don't mind smoking in films; it's fine. But for some reason, it just felt egregious in this. And before
Yeah.
anyone comes at me, I know that's the character. I know that's Constantine. I've read his books. I've got his
It's not
books.
bother
Blah
you.
blah
It's
blah.
fine.
But yeah, for some reason, the way Keanu Reeves was doing it was just triggering.
But he again, like everything else, he's got that unique physicality that only Keanu has. Like even the way he smokes, he kind of pulls out the side of his mouth.
Yeah,
I think it's because he brings attention to it with his motions. It's like he doesn't just like some guys can like smoke in a movie and they can smoke the entire movie, but it almost becomes just part of their outfit that you almost forget. Whereas because Keanu does these like big motions when he's pulling a cigarette out of his mouth or he's lighting up, that you can't help but notice every single time he's smoking a cigarette, and he's smoking all the fucking time. So yeah, I totally get it. Alternative titles for this film? I assume it's just going to be Constantine hyphen something, but
most of them, yeah.
unless you have a couple of Hellblazers maybe in other countries.
So Hellblazer was the working title in America.
Yes.
We've got Constantine with a K and no E on the end in other countries.
Okay. Fair enough. Maybe it's just how it's spelled in that country.
Yeah. Hungary, Constantine the Demon Hunter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Kazakhstan, Constantine Lord of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Russia, same. Taiwan, Constantine Demon Detective.
Sounds a bit too much like a video game, but sure.
Yeah, and Vietnam just wants to be different. The Man Who Goes Under Hell.
Oh, okay, fair play.
Vietnam, so he hasn't gone to hell; he's gone under hell. He's gone down another level.
What is under hell? Who knows? I mean, that'll get you in, but then you get out the film. It's like, well, what was under hell? I have no fucking idea. I only found out what the hell that was in hell, and what was in hell, which is more LA apparently. Jesus Christ, lazy. In terms of facts, I have one I wanted to jump in quickly, and apologies if I'm stepping on your toes here, but it's something I just totally didn't know about this film. That development for Constantine actually started in 1997, even before Blade was released, which kind of reinvigorated the video game. So this was like off the back end of like The Shadow and fucking what was the one with Billy Zane. Phantom classic.
Films we are going to do on this podcast, by the way.
Especially the Phantom. Definitely. I'm not sure if I really want to go back. The thing is, I don't think The Shadow is even interesting enough to be worthy going back to. It was just a bit shit. Oh, we're doing it. But anyway, there were numerous directors attached. And at one point, Nicolas Cage was due to star in 2002. Now, as much as I love Keanu in this, I'm like, I'm not totally against an idea of, 1992 Nicolas Cage playing John Constantine. I think he's going to bring something interesting to it for sure.
Fucking hell. Leaving Las Vegas, John Constantine. I just don't know.
It's going to be big. It's going to be. I mean, you think about how like low key Keanu is. Like, it's going to be I mean, it's been proven in the last couple of years that Nicolas Cage can do low key, like films like Pig and stuff like that, where you can really pare it back and still deliver an amazing performance. I'm a massive Nicolas Cage fan. Not all his films by any stretch, but when Nicolas Cage is good, he's fantastic. And even in his worst films, I actually think he elevates them because he has that again star quality. But 1992, Raising Arizona, Nicolas Cage, you're not going to get low key out of that motherfucker. So yeah, very, very different film, but an interesting film, just very different.
What's that, Constantine? What do you want to do with the devil? I want to take his face off.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting film. Any more facts? I assume there's more than just that one.
Yeah, so Keanu Reeves bought the Holy Shotgun prop and gave it to the director Francis Lawrence as a gift.
Nice.
Which is funny. Who did he buy it off?
Yeah, it seems odd, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they were. Like,
it was there. So can he just walk out with it? Why? Who is he buying it off?
Certain companies do like deals where they're like, "Oh, we'll put this together, but you have no reason to keep it, but it'll benefit us if we have it back." Yeah. So it's like, we'll make it for the film. You can use it for the film, but you guys don't need it afterwards. Whereas if it's like a prop used in the film, not only can we use it to sell our business, but we can actually sell the prop for a serious amount of money afterwards. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a business model for a lot of these companies. I have nothing to back that up, by the way. It just makes sense now that I think about it.
Constantine's line in which he says that he doesn't want Angela to be another ghost following him around is a reference to the comics, where he is haunted by the ghosts of friends who have died because of him.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Plenty to
The
work with in
character
this.
of John Constantine was originally created by Alan Moore during his run of DC Comics Swamp Thing. However, following his negative experience with From Hell and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Moore decided to reject all money and credit from Hollywood on any adaptations of his work. Thus, he gave all the money he would have gotten to the artist who drew the character with him and rejected his own created by credit from the film.
Well, he's a bit of a character, isn't he? He is a bit of a character. But
He's
fair play, he's
great,
kept to
though.
his,
Yeah,
stuck to
kept
his
his guns.
morals.
Speaking of morals, the Nazi flag used to wrap the Spear of Destiny was destroyed after shooting to prevent it from falling into the hands of neo-Nazis.
Nice, nice.
Constantine buys a holy hand grenade and some skinhead goes, "Can I buy that flag?"
Yeah, I'm sure they can find it or make their own ones. They're quite, these people are idiots. But yeah, just get rid of it after it's done.
According to the director's commentary on the DVD, Constantine's brass knuckles are made from gold that was blessed by a bishop during the Crusades.
Badass.
There's a lot of this.
I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that because that is such a cool weapon. I would have liked to kind of like blessed hammer at an old boy. He just goes around with just like a common fucking hammer and just starts smashing demons in the face.
There's a lot of this stuff in regards to the this. The tattoo on Constantine's arms is the alchemical. So alchemical? How the fuck do you say that word?
Alchemist? Alchemy?
It's got an L on the end. Alchemical?
Alchemal, I guess.
There's a C in there. Any fucking way.
I'm sure it'd be related to alchemy. So I'm like, yeah.
All right, I'm going to go with it. Is the alchemical symbol of the Red King, which was worn by him for protection. It is the fire triangle with 3 radiating arrows below, represents the perfect Red King, the sulfur of the philosophers.
It's pretty cool. Again, one of those things, like, it's not really hinted at. It just kind of shows up at the end of the film. He does his tattoo power thing. It's cool. Doesn't need to be explained. No, it's fine.
There's a scene where Constantine wraps his hands in a cloth and lights it to send the demons attacking Dodson back to hell. The cloth is seen prior briefly and without explanation when Beeman is loaded in his bag. This cloth was a piece of the burial shroud of Moses. Beeman's explanation of the cloth when he presented to Constantine was cut from the film. So again, there's just loads of films we just don't.
But that's what I mean. But like the stuff like that where I think they should have cut out more. Like it's cool to hear that now, but I wasn't watching this film going, why did that cloth make it? I just assume it's just, well, they're just using occult magic shit. Like they're just using religious stuff. I don't give a fuck. As long as it looks cool, fine. I don't want, half the film spent on fucking exposition.
I love this one because it's stupid. It's like, you didn't think there was enough smoke in this film? You didn't think there was enough smoke? Besides being addicted to smoking cigarettes, Constantine is seen drinking Ardbeg and a single malt Scotch whiskey with a powerful smoky flavour. Just in case you didn't know there was enough smoke.
By the way, when he's drinking that, we didn't mention it. What did you think? Because we mentioned the fact that LA is quite empty, blah, blah, blah. And obviously Beeman works in the back of a bowling alley. What did you think of Constantine's apartment? It's fucking mental, right?
It's massive, isn't it? And it's all like one room.
But it's really thin. It's almost like an ongoing kitchen. Like there's only one way. It's like he's constantly facing towards the window. It's the strangest fucking building. And I thought, right, is the rubber duck in Matrix Resurrections? Because remember there was a big fuss about that when the trailer came out, where he's in the bath and he's got a rubber duck on his head. In Constantine, he's got a bathroom. There's nothing else in it except for a bath and a rubber duck on the side. I was like, was that like a fucking weird nod to Constantine in Matrix Resurrections? I want to believe it is.
That's Keanu's rubber duck.
I hope it is Keanu's rubber duck.
He just brings it to work with him.
It's like, Sam Raimi's car. Like it shows up in all his films. Just secretly, if you really paid close attention, Keanu Reeves' rubber duck shows up in every single one of his movies. Fucking bizarre.
Right, I'll give you one more. Peter Stormare originally auditioned for the role of Balthazar.
I mean, he would have knocked that out of the park as well.
Yeah,
but I'm glad he didn't get it.
Did he get beat out by Gavin Rossdale?
Nah,
or did they offer him Satan?
I think they would have offered him Satan. There's no way. Although, again, 2005, it's easy to forget over here because Bush wasn't as big a deal. Bush were massive in America in the early 2000s. So getting Gavin Rossdale in this film probably felt like a bit of a big deal. I can only imagine because they were big in America. But in terms of performance, surely Stormare was having the role he wanted. But he would have been a bigger deal for most people. Like, Gavin Rossdale would have been a bigger deal than Peter Stormare in 2005. Yeah. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
Is that all of them?
That's it. Yeah, I'll end it there. Yeah.
That's fair enough. So, Hug to the Future, this is where we ask the question: remake, sequels, Let It Die, or Leave Well Alone. I think we've pretty much answered this. So, sequel, please. I go as far as to say I very much want a sequel. I want them to go, harder. I want the whole cast back if at all possible. We mentioned the fact that there'd been other versions. The Matt Ryan Arrowverse TV show. I know it wasn't initially Arrowverse; it became Arrowverse and stuff like that. It's comic accurate, but I want to see the Keanu Reeves version of this. I just want him to fully back out, go, listen, just go full fucking horror. Just let Keanu do his thing. But yeah, I like the fact that Constantine just seems to be one of these characters who shows up in the oddest places. And I'm not sure if you're a big fan of the comics, because I've never been like a Constantine guy.
I love the Constantine comics.
I know the character was changed for the Sandman TV show. It was like his descendant, so it was Joanna Constantine in the TV show, which I didn't mind. I actually thought the TV show.
I thought she was good in her. Yeah.
But in the original comic book, it is John Constantine in Sandman, and he's fantastic in that. And I like the character, but on screen, I would like to see the return of Keanu.
Yeah,
please.
But that's it again. We're in America. This is the American version of it. I mean, it'd be weird if Keanu Reeves was doing it in London or Liverpool or anywhere in the UK. So the fact that it's in LA, that's fine. I'm all right with that. And in regards to a sequel, yes, I do have a bit of a caveat, as I've already said, that I'd love to see John Constantine, Keanu Reeves play that character again, see what that character's up to now, nearly 20 years later. Absolutely fine. Maybe you bring Djimon Hounsou back as Papa Midnight, because that character is always going through. I don't think you need anyone else. Unfortunately, Chaz is a bigger deal in the comics. So the fact they killed him off earlier, okay, I don't know if you get Chaz number 2. But yeah, it's not the end of the world, but I do love Chaz in the comics. I think Chaz is great.
And I mean, as already mentioned, I like I like Shia LaBeouf as a screen presence, and especially in these smaller roles. And I like the idea of like, where would Chaz be again 20 years later? Would he kind of really chilled out? Is he basically a kind of basically what Constantine is in this movie? I don't know, whatever the case may be. But I think the important thing is get back the original director, get back Keanu, get back some of the cast. It's not like, oh, you have to have the whole cast. Other than, I think we both agree, you've got to get Peter Stormare back as the dad.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. I don't know if it is. I wonder if he's kind of aged out of the role of Satan. Like, he looked so good. Like, he was so creepy and everything when he's sniffing Constantine's face and everything's going really close. But I don't know. Peter Stormare is just kind of not that character, that actor. I
mean, maybe not. I just think recasting one of the most memorable takes on the devil of all time.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
bold move. But and the same with Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton, she's older, but she's always had this. And I think the reason she works so well as an angel, for instance, is that she always had that slightly asexual look.
But she can be older now because she's human. So what do you see?
Of course.
You see Gabriel walking through the world now. 20 years later, what's happened to Gabriel?
That'd be a good like side story actually for this film.
Yeah, like she opened some sort of a cult shop or something and something like that. So yeah.
Like Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters. So make a change. So this is where we ask the question: if you can make one change to make this movie better. It's very lazy, but other than the Gavin Rossdale thing, it's just make their interpretation of Hal more imaginative. It's just a shame because, as I said, their take on LA in 2005 is fantastic, super memorable, super not unique, but it takes a cinematic style and sticks with it. And then you get the Hell bit, which is just like it's not even terrible. It's just underwhelming. So I wish they would have done a bit more with that. And that's one of the things, if they do make the sequel, is that they go in a different direction with their interpretation of Hell, because there's so much potential for that, and I just don't think they really nailed it in this one at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the right answer, but my answer is, why is he in a fucking sling? Just tell me why he's in a fucking sling, or tell me why you're paying Beeman with a box that sounds like a cow.
Or if you are just making one change, the easiest way to get over this is just remove the sling. You remove the sling, you remove the problem.
I really think that the detective had fucked his arm up in real life, like the actor.
Probably. I don't think that would make you happy though. I don't think just removing the sling, therefore the problem's gone, is going to solve your problem. It's going to be no. I want the story behind the sling.
I want to know why he's in a sling.
I want the director's cut with 20 more minutes of footage with this whole sling incident, with him slightly injuring his arm off duty or something.
Sorry, we didn't actually say, speaking of cuts and all that, Michelle Monaghan was in this film, wasn't she?
Yeah. She's still in it briefly, I believe, isn't she?
Very briefly. She's like at the end, I believe.
Yeah. I totally missed her. It was only when I read it and they said she was in it, I was like, I fucking totally missed Michelle Monaghan. But yeah, she was initially
a half-breed demon, a succubus. She was actually sleeping with Constantine.
Yeah. So
But they
that was
took it
his
out.
love interest.
They took it out to make him a loner.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
it worked because I like the fact the whole will they, won't they with Rachel Weisz was much better.
yeah.
And I almost like the fact that you never really thought that they would. But like I said, that sexual tension right through to that final scene is just there. And you just got two likable lead actors just with all like great looking. And you're almost like, God, I just want them to get together, just see what they gorgeous ass babies would look like. But the fact that they don't kiss, I actually think works for the character because, like you say, like Constantine really is a loner, and fundamentally he might look like Keanu Reeves and stuff, but he is a dick. He would be a terrible hang in terms of outside of working and dealing with demons. Like just go into a bar with fucking him, smoking 20 packs, and just fucking hell, dude, he's just such a bummer. But yeah, so I don't think, put it this way, I don't think there would have been any legs in the relationship between Angela and John Constantine. In terms of video games, there was a 2005 video game because this was back in the day when if you had a movie, they still made a video game. But the PS2, PS1, video games, fucking everything. It was made by THQ for PS2 and the OG Xbox. It was a third-person action RPG. It was okay. A very 2005 third-person shooter that was almost immediately rendered old-fashioned by the likes of like Resident Evil 4 and then subsequently Gears of War. So it's in that weird period where they were still trying to get third-person action shooters right. And just before they actually nailed it with stuff like Resident Evil 4 was almost its own unique beast, but Gears of War was the evolutionary road that all other video games went down, and anything just before that suddenly feels very old and very clunky. So you don't want to go back to that game. But if I was going to make one now, I'd actually keep the link to Francis Lawrence, because other than the films he has made, if you look at the films he's got upcoming, so beyond Constantine 2, he's supposed to be making The Long Walk, which obviously interests both of us as Stephen King fans. Absolutely fantastic short story. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work cinematically, but I think we both agree that it's one of Stephen King's better short stories.
Yeah, one of Richard Bachman's best. Yeah. Because you got the running. Oh no, it's Stephen King. But what I mean is Stephen King's written a bunch of short stories, and then he wanted to go like sci-fi-ish kind of different route with Richard Bachman. So The Long Walk, fantastic. Running Man, not too bad, but I fucking love The Long Walk.
There's something about The Long Walk. And again, I'll be very interested to see how that works on the screen. But he's also supposed to be doing I Am Legend 2, which is obviously based on the alternative ending with, Will Smith. But the interesting one is, and it's been on the books for ages as to whether it'll ever get made, but BioShock. And I actually think the template for BioShock would be perfect for a Constantine game. So instead of like, this fictional underwater city, you just do it in a distinctly, noir LA, but it combines very, adult storytelling, I guess you would call it, and has that combination of shooting and magic, as I know is like plasmids, but that's basically just a science way of saying, just the religious version of that. So I would go with Boston 2K making kind of like a BioShock version of, or a Constantine version of BioShock. I do apologize.
Sorry, you might have said it. You'd make it first person as well, would you?
I'd make it first person as well, yeah. Although either or, it's more about capturing the tone and the gameplay mechanics. But just to shift away from that terrible 2005 PS2 game, I'd go with first person.
So I was thinking about this, and the character kind of jumps on screen, jumps to video game style, kind of already has with Edward Carnby, Alone in the Dark. But I absolutely, and I think I'm one of the only ones who's, and yes, we know my taste. I think I'm one of the only ones who actually likes the 2008 one.
I know exactly. Oh, no, not that one. No.
The one where he wakes up in the future. He wakes up in present day, not the future. Sorry, he wakes up in present day.
Yeah,
I love that game. I love the whole style of it, where they turned it into like some sort of TV series. So everyone you went back to from your save, it was previously on Alone in the Dark, and they showed you a cut of the I think that's great. I haven't played the new one yet with David Harbour.
It's not supposed to be great.
No, and Alone in the Dark 2, I think is a great game, but I because modern day settings, I think the Alone in the Dark, or on PlayStation, it was called Alone in the Dark Inferno, I believe.
Yeah.
Who did it? Eden Games. So yeah, I'd probably go with them.
It was. I actually thought you were going to say something else then, and it's one that wasn't played by a huge number of people. But now I'm actually going to change my answer. Did you ever hear of a game? It's 2014. It was for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox 360 called Murdered Soul Suspect.
Murdered Soul Suspect is fantastic.
There we go. I honestly thought you were going to say that. I was like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
that I think is actually the correct answer. I get the whole Alone in the Dark thing, but I would argue that most of the Alone in the Dark games, other than the original, have actually been pretty bad, including I tried the most recent one. I wanted to like it, still not fantastic. They always somehow shit the bed with the mechanics. It's very strange. But Murdered Soul Suspect is one of those like real mid-range, like the middle is very much fallen out of video games, but this is back, the tail end of 360 going into the very start of Xbox One and PlayStation 4 when the double A games were still hanging around. And this is so double A, but it's got that noir thing. It's got the supernatural bent. It's not an amazing game, but it's just one that I really enjoyed and it's just totally stuck with me.
I mean, the story as well is great. The whole intrigue and who killed him and why and stuff, and the little girl, and obviously being set in Salem, the witches and everything. It's a great game.
I know it was developed. It was released at least by Square Enix, but it was developed by Airtight Games. But yeah, I think I'm going to change my answer from BioShock to Murdered Soul Suspect, just the Constantine version, basically.
To be fair, any one of those three I think would work. But yeah, probably Murdered Soul Suspect is probably the one.
Yeah, well, it's a game we both love, so let's just go with that.
Yeah.
In terms of ratings and recommendations, I mean, you've already hinted at yours, but I actually.
Shall I go first with mine?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I middle of the road. I kind of want to say 2.5, but I'll do you. I can't really give it a half. So it's a 3. It is definitely a 3-star film. There's a lot more to be desired for it, but also it's not terrible. So it's absolutely middle of the road. But I probably wouldn't recommend it. I don't know many people. Oh, I wouldn't go out and you need to watch Constantine. I mean, people who like Keanu Reeves have probably watched it anyway. So yeah, I don't know if a market needs it.
Totally on the fence here because I'm probably closer to a 3.5 if I was I'm going to say 3 as well though, but a much more positive 3. I was just it's not one of those films I ever think, oh, like Constantine's amazing. I just always liked it and I still just like it. It's if I was 4-star, it'd just be because of a handful of performances, but I don't think it's a 4-star film. But it's weird when you go to 3-star because you can have 3-star films where you had such high expectations and you can almost sell it as like this disappointing 3-star film. Whereas this is just one of those, it's just like a really good 3-star film. I always felt the same way we were talking about before the podcast, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice has got loads of structural problems. And I think that's what this film has got as well. Excuse me. Which keeps it from ever being close to being great. But all the performances are fun. It's shot well enough. And Beetlejuice, sorry, is just a fun 3-star film. And I think this is much the same. Recommended it. It depends on, as you say, how hard you want to go. I'm not going to go out of my way to tell anyone you have to see Constantine. If someone asks me, it's like, oh, have you seen the film Constantine? I would say it's worth watching, but I wouldn't be running down the street telling people you have to see Constantine.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone has to see Constantine. It's just a perfectly fun film. But like I said, if someone asks me, it's like, should I watch it? It's like, yeah, give it a go. But I don't think that's me necessarily recommending it. That's just, if someone asked me, I'd be like, yeah, give it a bash. So I'm going to say 3 and no-ish, I suppose. But
so basically we're both on the same.
Yeah, we're same ball, but I just kind of, I think I'm a bit more positive on it. And like you said, well, it's one of those, if we were picking hairs, you could probably push it down to a 2.5 and I could push it up to a 3.5. But I think 3 is probably absolutely bang on for this film. Like I said, our criticisms, we are splitting hairs largely, but we agree on most things, I think.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So that has been 2005's Constantine and the first part of our October Halloween special of podcast. I know October doesn't make sense, by the way, because it should be HYG rather than HUG, but it just looks good in the poster, so you just have to go with it. But the second part is your choice, sir. So what are you going to go for?
Right, so we're sticking. We're going back to the 80s. So I'm going to give you so it's 1987.
1987. Is it part of a franchise?
Yeah, they did make a sequel, and they're trying to make a remake.
Oh, really? 1987. I don't know. Go for it.
The director, Tibor Takacs.
Tibor Takacs?
Yeah.
Where's he from? Fuck. Tibor Takacs. I got nothing from that.
You haven't heard
of 87 movies.
You haven't heard of Tibor Takacs, the guy that gave us It's Christmas Eve, Memories of Christmas, A Christmas Miracle, The Secret Ingredient, The Christmas Ant. You haven't heard of this guy?
Is this film going to be fucking terrible? It's not Garbage Pail Kids, is it?
No, but there is an
I was like,
argument.
is that a horror film? I mean, it's a horrific movie from what I hear.
There is an argument that it could be classed as horror, and that
I thought he was going to get me on a technicality with that, but
that may be my next choice. But
no, that can't be not for Halloween. We'll have to veto that for Halloween.
Well,
I'm not vetoing. I mean, it sounds like it's one of the worst films ever made, and I kind of want to watch it at this point, but definitely not Halloween.
So, 1987, Thibaut de Cax, the star Stephen Dorff.
From 87.
Yep.
It's not coming to me at all.
No, I don't know if I've got any more. You're gonna get the tagline. You won't get it from me, or maybe you are. The tagline: "They're here and they want to meet the neighbors."
They're here. It's like a gremlin. It's not like goblins or something like that, or not goblins. What was that one with the ones that come out of the toilet? They're always on the poster.
Yeah. Oh, fuck me. I love that.
What were they called? It wasn't goblins. It was something like that, where you had like the green little alien dude, literally coming out of the toilet on the poster. But no,
Ghoulies.
You get
the Ghoulies.
Ghoulies. That's it, Ghoulies.
Yeah.
But it's not Ghoulies, obviously.
No.
Later on, done? Just got no, yeah.
The Gate.
Oh, dude, I would have never ever got that, and I have not seen that film since like 1992.
Yeah, it's been a while for me.
I have no idea off the top of my head. It's the point where I've not thought about this since I watched it, and it's been so long that I literally have no idea if this film is good or bad. And I don't just mean from my own opinion. I like critically anything. If you hadn't brought it up, I would have never thought about this film again for the rest of my life. But yeah, and Jesus, what a throwback!
It's 6 out of 10 on IMDb. So
yeah. But that's the thing. I just don't have that recollection of it, and I can't remember Stephen Dorff being it. I just remember I've seen it. That's it. I can't remember shit about it.
Oh, it's been a very long time for me as well. But I thought, you know what, I've been wanting to for a while, but I've kind of saved it for Hugtober because I want to do things.
Perfect to hear you guys like fodder, because it's one of those films. Like I said, I watched when I was younger. I was very aware of it. I remember the VHS at the video store and all that jazz, but I totally forgot about it. And it's like it just wouldn't have come up in my life. Even if I'd seen it on TV, I probably would have forgot about it. But the fact that it's just like this is a good excuse to revisit it. Sure.
Yeah, and it's like. There's a lot of what we've got actors these days that were child actors and wanted to see their film because The Explorers is another one I'd love to do at some point.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Yeah, but The Explorers, I remember going nowhere fast. So it's one I've been I've been tiptoeing around. But we will get to it at some point. Good show. Yeah. But no, I'm looking forward to watching this. It's on Prime if you want to know. So
good man.
Like Liam, it's not going to disappear in like 6 fucking hours. So you've got some time to watch it.
In fairness, by the time we're recording this, by the time you listen to it and it goes up, it actually won't be on Amazon Prime anymore. So we apologize. But anyway, this has been Constantine. Next week is 1987's The Gate, a film I've not thought about for the longest time. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Just the usual, mate. If you want to get in contact with us, you can send us a text message from fucking hell, I can even think of it. So send a text message from your podcaster of choice. Why don't you let us know what you'd like us to cover for Halloween? We got 3 more films. Maybe you'll throw one in that we haven't thought of, and we'll think
4 more actually.
Top the list.
How many? We're doing 5 this year. 5. I do apologize. Yeah. Just give us a shout. Give us any suggestions. All right, I've been Liam. He's been Rob, and you've been listening to the first part of our Hugtober season of Halloween podcasts. And we will see you next week for The Gate. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.